Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. We want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I get to speak with my good friend, VJ Niles. She's been helping professionals get to the next level in their careers. She's a career strategist and a speaker. Now, what's funny is that I've been looking for a career strategist, or I've been strategizing my own career, not just career, but my entrepreneurship and where I'm going. So again, strategy is something that's very important for all of us to get to that next level. Now, she says on her profile, she's not just a coach, but she helps you strategize your career, help you catapult to the next level in your career, whether you're a mid-level professional wanting to get to the next level, an executive trying to decide your next move between C-suite and your own thing, or an entrepreneur trying to figure out how to bring your ideas to fruition. And what's something that we're focusing on this podcast is how to make your side hustles into full-time things. And this is where VJ Niles is an expert on. So VJ, thank you so much for your time and coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I got introduced to you on one of those live LinkedIn Samya episodes with Junaid. And I was like, dude, you guys are talking like stuff from inside my head. This is really powerful. And because we all have those thoughts that we don't like to get out in the open. We just keep it to ourselves, or maybe write it down in the journal. But and so that was really inspiring. And I was like, I need to talk with VJ. I need to talk with Junaid, and I need to get them on the podcast, get their story, because we all have so many different experiences, and then what we learn, and we're basically standing on shoulders of giants. We wouldn't be able to use this technology that we are using today if Bill Gates hadn't figured out how to program the operating system, or Steve Jobs hadn't worked with Wozniak. So but we all have our own journeys that we go through. So my very first question is usually, tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before.
Well, for my journey, I think, and that nobody's heard before, that's the harder part.
I know, right? But we can always go in and out of, okay, this is where I started, but here's some things that, I've never talked about.
Okay, I guess some parts of my journey a lot of people probably don't know is I always had a plan to not work for somebody for the rest of my life. I was 22 in corporate America. I hit 23 and was like, I do not want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to work for somebody else. And anything I did, I was always just trying to save money, learn all the different jobs I had. I've had 4 careers. I've worked in insurance, higher ed, IT, and HR. And in between, it was always like the motivation for me to do what I wanted to do. So, I just would always keep my eye on the prize. Like, I hate my job, but I knew I was doing it because one day I was going to have my own thing. Yeah. I knew that I could take my mistakes and help other people with it. The things that I overcame. I think perseverance is probably one of the biggest parts of my story. There are times I probably should have given up. I probably should have stopped and just been like, enough is enough, but I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I just really couldn't. There are days I'm like, we should just give up. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. We're just going to keep going forward, and I exhaust every option before I'm like, okay, it's not even a give up. It's like, all right, this literally will not work. We've exhausted every option to try to make this work. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of my journey is that level of perseverance. I mean, only probably like my close friends know how much I've been through, how many mountains I've had to move, how many obstacles have been in my way, and just really always getting back up. As Les Brown Jr. says, if you land on your back and you're looking up, you can always get up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always just like, all right, get back up. I've worked 2 jobs, and I mean, I've gone to 2 different schools, had a job and my own business all at the same time. So
Wow.
like I said, there are times I probably should have been like, wait, maybe I shouldn't do all this. Maybe I should slow down and like one job and just the
Mm-hmm.
one business and one
Mm-hmm.
school, but it just all kind of made me who I am. And it's all just been like such an interesting journey.
Yeah.
People look at me now and I'm like traveling more, and I'm ready to relocate out the country, which I'll be doing hopefully in a couple more months.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm planning to spend the winter abroad in the Dutch Caribbean because I'm tired of being cold.
Yes.
And I was talking to this lady the other day who was like, wow, you're so blessed. And I was like, yes, I am. But it's like, you have no idea what I've had to go through to even
Mm-hmm.
get to this point, the
Yeah.
sacrifices that I've made,
Yeah.
and the things I just had to let go of to get to this point. So I think that's a big part of my journey that people don't know, is just the level of perseverance that I've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's super important to have that, in the back end, because without the struggles, it's like we were watching this movie, Alexander, the very bad day and whatnot, and it's like, unless you can appreciate the bad, or having experienced the bad, you can then appreciate the good that you have. You're more grateful, because a lot of the times you'll hear people are just complaining, because they've just had it good the whole time, and
Yes.
they're like, oh, I'm entitled to this. I'm like, no, you're not.
No, it's like, welcome to the real world.
Yes, welcome to the real world. I mean, and what's funny that people don't realize is that we have days and nights every single day. Like, we should be so acclimated with change, because every single day you have a day and a night, you have it up and down, and
Right.
entire history of the universe, there are ups and downs. So having them in our lives is only natural.
Yes. Yes.
Sweet. So congratulations, for spending winter in a warmer weather area.
Thank you.
Because that would be really awesome. And I was looking at my electric bill last year, and winter was hanging around in spring, and we had to pay an exorbitant amount of money to keep the house warm. I'm like, oh my God, what is this going on?
I
So
am
that's
on
really,
oil. So oil is even more expensive than electric is. So
oh my
yes,
God,
I
yes.
totally get it. I am tired of shoveling snow. I'm tired of being cold.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
somebody
I
else can
said
do
this
that.
is my time. Sometimes you just have to make that decision
Yeah.
that this is your time. And actually, that's another part of my journey was I made the decision
Hmm.
that I'm not going backwards anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm going full out in my business. I've rebranded. I did some new things, but I'm finally at a point where I'm like, yeah, this is it. I'm moving forward. There's no going backwards anymore.
Yeah.
Like I have better clarity on some stuff. I redid my strategy. I've already put together a 10-year plan. I'm like, everybody's like,
Nice.
oh, 2020 is my year. I'm like, that's my decade. So,
That's
think
right.
about having that mindset shift when you really just decide, like, all right, this is what's going to happen. This is what I need. This is what I'm going to do. It's the mountains just move out the way.
That's right. They do. Well, it's not that the mountains move out the way, you fly over them.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you fly over them. Sometimes you just blow a hole through the middle of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
just be like, you know what? There's an alternate route where there are no mountains. So yeah, but I think it's like that really helps. No matter what you're doing, if you're trying to
Hmm.
figure out, can I make this hobby into a full time thing? You
Yeah.
just put together the right strategy and decide, okay, I'm going to give it my all, or give it the time to grow
Yeah.
and develop to be what I want it to be. It's not an overnight process.
It's
This is like
not.
my
No.
third business.
Yeah.
So I failed at 2 other businesses.
Yeah.
I didn't get, and then I had one I never even got off the ground. So, but now
Yeah.
it's like I take all of those experiences, and sometimes you have to realize when you've taken yourself as far as you can and get the help that you need.
Hmm.
And then,
That's right.
like I said, once you make those decisions, like I was like, all right, I'm going to go get the help I need. And I started getting the help I needed, and
Yeah.
I had the right support system. And, like if especially as an entrepreneur, you have to have entrepreneur friends.
You do. Oh my
You
God.
have to.
So
You need
true
that
because
support system. It doesn't matter where in the world they are. You
no,
just have to have them.
you have them. You got to have them
Yeah.
because the mindset is so different. Like if you're talking to somebody who's got a 9 to 5, I'm like, well, I can only talk about this topic. And then that's where sports come in, right? People talk about sports all the time because it's a medium that doesn't require, any real life um, experience or emotions or something. I don't
Right.
know. Uh, that even makes sense.
No, I
And
get what you're
I can
saying
never
because
talk
it's like
about,
it's something that you don't have to be directly in. Like you're not a
yeah,
direct player, but you're still involved with it. You still have a
yes,
level of
yes.
engagement
And
with
I
it.
don't have any of that. I don't watch any sports whatsoever, right? So I'm like, yeah. So like, there's one friend of mine or a cousin or family friend. He's actually my wife's cousin, but we talk about like when Bitcoin was doing great, we talked about cryptocurrency all the time. And then when it crashed, I'm like, all right, we don't talk about that anymore. So like I am still struggling on finding the people that are my
Right.
people. Like what's
Right.
my vibe to like, okay, these are
Right.
the people. And I think that's what I've done with the podcast. I've reached out to people that think the way I think and
Mhm.
I like the way they think. So then, we have a conversation like this and it's really helping each other out and figuring out, okay, what's the next thing you're doing. And like you mentioned, you've got your entire 10 years planned out, which is like super amazing and super impressive because for me, I'll be happy if I have my next 2 weeks planned out. I
But
am
to,
the
but to do that though, I looked at the bigger picture, right? And then I had a post earlier, and somebody commented. Audrey commented on it. Audrey Boyle's her name, and
Mhm.
you look at the big picture, and then you can work backwards from your big picture.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's what you do. So I decided, like, I want to impact 10,000 lives over the next 10 years,
Hmm.
which means it's going to be 1,000 a year. So now I can work backwards and figure it all out. Like, I don't have very little detail figured out just
Sure,
yet, but
sure,
I
sure.
have the master plan. And
The
one of the
big
reasons why
goal.
I like strategies and I'm a strategist is because when you strategize something, you look at every possible scenario.
Hmm.
Or well, I do anyway. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, so here's possible scenarios, here are possible outcomes from each scenario. I used to always just be like, oh, I'm going to make a plan. But when I made a plan and things didn't go to plan and I only
Yeah,
had 1 or 2 backup plans, that wasn't always enough. And I
yeah,
realized my plans did not take into consideration these outside things.
yeah.
Whereas when I started to strategize, I looked at, okay, so if I make this plan, here's the things that could affect it. What if I don't have any money for that? So how do I get the money for that? What if I need more education for that? What if I need
Hmm.
a new car? What if I need to figure out new housing? What if I need a new passport? Like all those things. Okay, I need new medical. I need life insurance. I need this. Like everything comes into play when
Yeah.
I strategize. Well, what happens if I meet somebody and because I'm not married and I don't have kids, but like what happens if that happens for me?
Yeah.
That changes my plan. Or, what if I meet, what if I find a kid I love somewhere in the world and decide to adopt a kid? Now my life
Hmm.
changes. So I think about all of these different scenarios. So I'm
Hmm.
like, there's a strategy for that. So if I hit one of those scenarios, I don't have to come up with a brand new plan. It's just, oh, okay, that's scenario 3.7. We just switched over to that. We already got a strategy in place for that. And it's
Nice.
like, I find strategies make you more flexible because when people's plans don't happen, they're like, oh my God, my plan didn't work out.
Yeah.
You're defeated. But if you have a strategy, you're like, oh, we've already worked out that scenario. It's
Mm,
a fluid. Okay, let's just switch because we already know what to do for that.
that's amazing. And you're able to do that because you've gone through the experience. You've had those experiences, right? You've created 4 businesses. You were in 4 different careers. You created 2 businesses, failed to start one of them. It's like there's no tires on this plan. We can't really get this car going.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like between the experiences and just like the level of perseverance of like, all right, listen, I was one of those kids. Like, if you ever told me I couldn't do something, that was just a dare to me. I was like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Hmm.
You know, as I got older, even still, I was in college and it's funny because I look at some of today's kids compared to like when I was their age. At like 18, 19, you couldn't tell me anything. I was on top of the world. There was nothing
Hmm.
I could not do.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even consider I couldn't do stuff. And we didn't even have this level of technology. We
No,
were
it
still
didn't.
figuring the world out. It was the 90s. .com era had just kicked off. But I was like, I can do it. I'm gonna figure
Yeah.
it out. This is
Yeah.
what I want. Like I always knew I wanted my own business. I could vision it what I wanted. That vision has shifted and
Mm-hmm.
changed because like I used to want to own bookstores. That's not really a thing anymore. So, it's just like, okay, let's shift out of that, and it's just like I shifted with the times, but I was always just like, there's a way to do this. Always have a backup plan. I never had like a plan A and a plan B. I was at like A through H, and then there was subsections of every plan.
Yeah.
So, and then I realized like you have to get rid of your comfort zone. Like I blew mine up, it's gone. There's no such thing as a comfort zone. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like me with a tent in the middle of whatever I'm in. Like
Right.
that's my comfort zone at this
Like
point.
you just need a
It's
backpack in the tent. Yeah.
that's it. Like that's it. You just have to really figure out what's it worth to you. Like sometimes people are so afraid. I'm like, you're more afraid to fail, afraid to succeed, right?
I
Because is
think
it
that's,
worth it to
yeah.
you? I heard somebody say, I can't remember the man's name. I was at a conference, and it was such a powerful statement to me because he was like, I used to be in Primerica back in like '07, and it was at one of our conferences, and I walked into the African Americans in Primerica group, and the guy said, "We've mastered being broke. It's time to master success." He was like, He was like, let's think, if you don't become successful, you go back to being broke. You know how to do that. You
Yeah.
succeeded at
You
that.
already do that.
And I was like, that is such a good point,
It's a really good
And
point.
and I was like, that's true. Like, so what if you fail and you go back to status quo? You've been doing status quo. You have mastered status quo. So if you go for your dream and it doesn't work out the first time and now you're back to watching Netflix, you know how to watch Netflix. You know how to sit on the couch, right? Like, what's the big deal? Just go do it. Like, if there's a chance that you can make your life better, why would you not do it?
Why would you
I
not
just
do it?
don't understand that. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, have you seen the latest episode of? I'm like, no,
No,
no.
I
I'm
haven't.
so behind on TV shows that I used to love. I'm like, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
I'll watch something on a plane in France.
They're not
I'm like,
going
I'll
anywhere. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I watch Netflix and it's literally old shows I've seen before, so I don't pay attention. It's just background noise for
It's just
me.
background noise.
Like I put on Grey's Anatomy because they're up to like 15 seasons. I'm like, perfect. I don't have to change shows for a while, and it's just running in the background and I'm doing my job. And every now and then I look over and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that scene. That was a good one. And then I go back to work it,
Yeah.
but I understand what my why is. I realize the drive and the want for more. I mean, I've trained my replacements. I've been let go from jobs for stupid reasons, and it's just like, it's not worth it to me, to just still be status quo. And I'm always telling people, I'm like, you ordinary people, please stop telling extraordinary people to be ordinary.
Yeah.
We don't like it.
We don't like it.
Some people, ordinary is great for them. They are good at it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people want a simple life. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not at all. But for me, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
Like your level of simple and my level of simple are just two different levels of simple. I want to make a global impact. I want to experience things. I want to learn multiple languages and like just make an impact on one person's life everywhere I go. And like I don't have to. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to be part of this big program and this mass movement and make sure that I hit like 5,000 really big people. No, I'd like the small people. Like I just recently did 2 lunch and learns this week. I talked for women at Tesla and women of color and farmer at GSK.
Nice.
And what like the best compliments I got was, you were so real. Like you gave real advice. And that was like the best thing for me to hear. That was, thank you. Somebody was like, you're so real. I'm like, yeah, I don't do pie in the sky. I understand like life is hard. I've seen a lot of ugly and, people are like, yeah, you should only work places that, are in line with your values and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you need to eat every day?
Yes.
Okay. So
Didn't work anywhere. Yeah.
You're going to like, because even if a company has great values, let's be realistic. Your coworkers might not have the best values.
No. Exactly.
Let's be realistic. Everybody at work is not going to be your friend. They're not supposed to be your friend.
No.
So, you have to understand,
so real.
Understand the boundaries. I've had plenty of coworkers that I'm like, we can have lunch together, but I'm not talking to you outside of work.
Yeah. And
we want to be different circles.
That is so true because, I worked at a company for over 3 years. I don't talk to those people anymore, even though we're friends on Facebook. Sure, we'll see a post every once in a while, but their mindset is different from my mindset because I'm doing this and they're not doing this. And they were
Right.
only friends because we worked in the same place, and we had some similarities, right?
Right.
We had same. So wow, that's a really, really powerful point.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh man.
Real. I can only do real. I'm like, listen, things are great. I love pie in the sky. We can shoot for the moon
Mm-hmm.
all we want, but we're still on Earth. Before we
Yeah.
hit the moon, let's figure out Earth. And people are going to be people. People aren't going to
Yeah.
like you for whatever reason. Everybody's not there to cheer you on. Um, Sometimes it's better to move in, stealth mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like those two things I talked about, the two talks I had today, probably
Exactly.
four
Yeah.
people knew I had those lunch and learns. And then like I had, beforehand. And now that they're
Yeah.
done, I'm like, guess what? I was just speaking at, for Tesla, they're
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it's easier to move quietly and then just celebrate your success. And
Exactly.
like, even so, I always tell people to network, right? Like I'm always talking about networking, but actually how to do it, not just go out and network and talk to people, but follow up, build
Yeah.
relationships. That's what,
Mm-hmm.
networking is truly about. And especially if you're trying to become an entrepreneur, or if you're trying to figure out how to turn that hobby into a business, you have to network. You have to talk to other people.
Absolutely.
And from networking, you just never know who you're going to meet and the type of opportunities that you're going to get. I got
Yeah.
both of those opportunities from networking.
From networking. Yeah.
The lady for Tesla, we were at a meetup together. It was a LinkedIn local meetup. And we met, and she lives towards where I live, and I drove her back to her car.
Like
So we had like a 45-minute car ride together, and we're just talking, and she's like, wow, I was talking some career strategy stuff with us. And she's like, man, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then she told the women at her job, and they're like, well, get her in to talk because she's part of the leadership team for women at Tesla.
There
I
you
was
go.
like, and I get this text like, hey, sorry, it's been a while, and I know it's kind of short notice, but would you mind doing talk for us? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when, I mean, we probably had like a 3-week lead time
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure, no problem, but it's all because of networking. It's just
So
literally talking to people and
yeah.
giving a little bit of who you are. So people get a sample of it, and then they want more.
I
You
think
just have to be you.
you do. Absolutely. You got to be yourself. And something that this guy I follow, Greg Roulette, he says, you've got to be the same person on the video. You got to be the same person in the meeting. You got to be the same person at the lunch, because you got to be that same person, because there's impossible to manage multiple personalities.
Right.
So,
Right.
so true. So awesome. And, a lot of the times people would post on LinkedIn, and they were like, oh, networking has such a bad connotation. It's because you haven't been doing it correctly.
Right.
Right. Or maybe there's a lot of salespeople coming in trying to get your money. I don't know what it is, but
It's because you know why people think it's transactional, right? People don't realize networking it's not about the hookup. It's about building relationships. It's not going out collecting a bunch of business cards, right? Some people go out like, okay, I got to collect like 45 business cards. No, why? If you're not going to do anything with them, what's the point?
Exactly.
Right? It's about holding conversations where because there's some people you meet and it's like, okay, you have a conversation with them. You're not calling them ever again. You don't want to talk to them after that.
Like, that's pretty cool.
But there's some people that you're like, okay, there's a vibe here. Let's talk a couple things. That's how I met Junaid. We also met at a LinkedIn local. Actually, the same one I met the Tesla lady.
The same one, yeah.
We didn't even get to talk much the first time we met. It was just kind of like, hey, how you doing? What do you do? Da da da. Then there was another one that same week, like 3 days later.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you going to that one? Because we didn't get a chance to talk. And it was like, yeah, I'll be there too. Like, I think we said that on LinkedIn. And then we finally got to talk at the second one. And then we started talking more and more and more, and I'm like, I think maybe last week we were at another event that I told him about. Nice. And I was like, oh, it's a networking event. You should check it out. Now we do similar things, but we're not in competition with each other. We collaborate. I stick to mid-level and up people. He does, like more early level professionals, and that's perfect because when they come to me, I'm like, I'm gonna refer you to him.
Yeah.
And then when he gets mid-level people or somebody trying to change careers, he's like, I'm gonna send you to VJ.
Yeah.
And it's just like having that building that relationship. It's all about talking to people. Because the best networking story I have, and it's crazy because I have never heard two people say something so exact before in my life. I'm at this event, and it's like this. I was in this meetup group that was like the New York City Girlfriends Get Together group, and we celebrated. It was like a holiday thing,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm talking to these two ladies on my right, and there's a lady on my left. And so I asked the two ladies on my right, so what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. One lady says she's interested in opening up a non-for-profit to do art therapy. And I said, okay. She's like, but I want to do it for like the refugees. But she's like, you know what? They're not really refugees, but the people that are like dislocated in their countries because of civil wars, like in Africa. I would love to go somewhere in Africa, open up a center and do art therapy for those people. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we talk a little more. I talked to the lady on my left, who I had met before, but I never knew what this woman did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? I was like, I don't think I know what you do. So what do you do? Well, I own a not-for-profit in Uganda where we do art therapy for the refugees. They're not really refugees, but they're the people that were dislocated because of the Civil War. And I was like, wait, what?
What?
I was like,
Did
okay,
you just
stop talking.
move over here? Like,
Yeah,
are you like, someone from the future?
Exactly. And the lady that was on my right, she was like, what did she say? I said, don't worry, I'm on it. I was like, switch seats with me because you two need to talk.
Get together.
I was like, the universe put you two together and me in the middle for a reason. So I'm going to go over here. You guys need to talk.
Yeah.
And I just moved on. I was like, yeah, I'm done. My role here is done. I was like, I have never heard two people say something so like therapy. Like
you heard their past and then this is from the future. Like she came back from the future to like, hey, I can help you.
Yeah, it was so crazy. That's why I'm always like, talk to people. You just never know who you're going to meet, and like, I always tell people, like, if you run out of things to say, you're not sure what to say, ask somebody what are 3 things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say stuff like food or traveling. Who doesn't love to eat? Right. So you can have whole conversations on like, oh, what's some great restaurants nearby?
Exactly.
So it's like an easy way to just start asking questions. But I mean, I always tell people that, like, don't network and go out there and start selling people. You have to just talk to them, get to know them, because people buy you. They don't buy what you're selling. They buy you.
It's so true. It's been said a million times, right? Yeah. They want to know who you are so they can create that connection. And that's something that we were talking about. So yesterday, we had this talk at this realtor event where we're basically teaching them how to shoot video and how to like talk about your properties and, basically create a connection. And so this lady's like, okay, I know Spanish and I know Italian, and, I want to create content and attract these type of people. So I was like, well, first of all, you got to strategize. You got to figure out what topics you're going to talk about, go as deep as you can, figure out your scripts, now record the video based on answering these questions, and then do it in all 3 languages. Right. And then you never know, because Facebook gives you that data back, which video is getting the target audience that you're interested in. And then you can tweak it and work on the stuff that's working. If Italian people are watching more, then, focus on that one. So yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's right. It's always about the right strategy, right? Because you can do a lot of things and have the wrong strategy and then it doesn't succeed.
Yeah. And I think I've done a lot of things with the wrong strategy so far.
Well, see, but now you know me, so now you can get.
Now I know you, and we can figure out the right strategy. Sweet. This was really awesome and powerful. I love it.
Good.
I wish I lived in New York. I've had a lot of good connections out in New York, but I'm just 5 hours away. It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's only 5 hours.
Yeah. What's funny is I'm in DC.
Oh.
Yeah. So let me tell you something funny. So, I'm also have passion to be in acting. So I've done some acting and I've done, some commercials. And there was this one role, like Law and Order. They're looking for a Middle Eastern to be like an extra. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I signed up and they're like, oh, you're in. But this thing is in New York. So I drove 7.5 hours to be in New York the night. And then in the morning, I showed up on set and I was able to do my part and whatnot. But
nice,
because it was just that experience. And if I, and I wanted to like reach out and connect with some of the other contacts that I had out in New York. But the time was so short that I had to just run back home the next morning, or even the same night, I think. So the night before I drove up, I stayed at my cousin's place. Then I took the train and then Uber, and it was just crazy. Like I couldn't figure out the train system.
Yeah, New York City train system isn't like the train system in DC. I used to live in Manassas and work in DC, so yeah, I'm familiar with that part. Yeah.
So I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
and
this is,
it's funny because like Law and Order is always filming somewhere in New York. There's so many times you'll be driving someplace and you'll see signs like "No parking tomorrow," filming in Law and
yes.
Order, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that was a cool experience. And I got to connect with people that were extras themselves. And they're like, yeah, we do this all the time. We were extras in Spider-Man 3, we were extras in, all these other movies. And oh, we're doing New Amsterdam next week. And there's all this stuff filming in New York. I'm like, oh my God, why am I not living here? But I know it's expensive as hell. So
And the DC is not much cheaper.
no, it's not. No, it's not.
But yeah, I mean, like New York, DC is nothing. I have family
Yeah,
like in Maryland, so yeah, I know where you are. But yeah, the next time I'm around, maybe we can try to get together when I'm back.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So I like to ask some questions towards the end. What is one hobby that you wish you got into?
Um, maybe sewing.
Oh,
I'm gonna say sewing, and
yeah.
I blame my mom for this one. Sorry, mom, rest in peace. But she went to the high school for fashion and industry, and she was always sewing stuff, but she never
Mhm.
showed me how. She
Oh,
showed me how to cut out patterns, and I would
yeah,
cut all her patterns when she wanted
yeah.
to make something, but she never showed me how to sew. Only thing I know how to sew is pillows.
Well, very cool. My mom has been sewing since forever. Her mom was also, she also used to sew. So I had some opportunity to sit on the sewing machine and like sew stuff and like do that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a really cool hobby because I remember when I was younger, probably like 4 and 5, she used to sew all of my clothes,
Right.
like
Nice.
high fashion looking. And then I remember when she came out here, we were visiting in '85, and they have all these simplicity patterns, right? You can get,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can like cut. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. So and my mom loves to like try different things, and that's why like I have so many different hobbies. It comes from my mom, and she's like
Nice.
into so many different things. She's like, oh, like one of the doors in Saudi Arabia, one of the doors were like dragging on the carpet, and she's like, oh, we could just take the door off and chop the bottom off, or like trim it down. I was like, how do you know this? So right, so I talk about this in my magnetic entrepreneur chapter, like all of these things I have because my mom's is into hobbies. And then I was like, and I go even deeper. I'm like, and my mom's dad used to own a shop, and he was a tradesman. And so I'm
Nice.
like, and then I'm looking at all my mom's brothers, and they're all doing their own thing, entrepreneurship. I'm like, no wonder I have that.
It's in your blood.
It's
It's
in
in
my
the genes.
blood. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's so funny. Like my mom and two of her sisters used to have their own little sewing business, and one of them like found their old business card and everything. And I'm like, but you never taught me how to sew. She told me how to cook. Like I know how to cook and
There you
such,
go.
but
Yeah.
the sewing part, I don't. And I have a sewing machine because I used to make pillows. But I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I got a machine. And then when I stopped making pillows, my mother was like, "Can I borrow your sewing machine?" And then she took it. I was like,
Never came back.
"No, I got it back now." But
Okay.
I was like, "Come on, you're supposed to teach me how to sew."
What's funny is that so one sewing project that I have is I've got all these old jeans. I've got like at least 6 or 7 jeans, and the crotch area is what got like torn. I'm like, well, I can't use these pants. So
Right.
they're sitting in my workshop, and I'm like starting to cut out, and then I'm gonna make like a duvet, or not a duvet, but what do you call it? A comforter,
Mm-hmm.
or a
Yeah,
patch.
like
I don't know,
yeah,
something like
cool.
that. A
Okay,
quilt,
nice.
yeah, a quilt with the jeans pattern. But I'm like, okay, I need to like spend 8 hours to do this, and I don't have the 8 hours
When do you have the time to do that? Just do
right.
it in small little pieces,
Little bits at
like
a
trying to
time,
make an
yeah.
elephant, one piece at a time. That's
You
it.
Yeah. If you come look at my workshop, it's crazy. I've got way too many projects going on. Way too
That's
many.
funny.
All right, next question. Um, what did you want to be when you were a child?
Oh, okay. At different stages, I used to want to be a writer.
Mhm.
Um, I published a poem when I was 7. My uncle had this magazine. He's a publisher, and so I had a poem published when I was 7.
Mhm.
Then I wanted to be a lawyer for a very long time. I wanted to be a corporate lawyer.
Mhm.
all the way into college. And then I was like, yeah, nah. Took the
Yeah.
LSAT twice and was like, yeah, nah, that's okay. I'm an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And then I went
Yeah.
on and got my MBA.
Nice.
But yeah, I used to want to be a lawyer for a very long time.
Very cool. I like it. Next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, Star Wars. Easy. Very easy.
Easy. Very easy.
Very
And
easy. I'm a big Star
going to
Wars fan.
Star Wars.
Usually I have on a Star Wars shirt when I'm walking around the house.
Yeah.
When I travel, it's funny. I had traveled with a friend for a conference, and it was around Star Wars Day. And I was like,
Hmm.
you know, I had some cute stuff to wear, but I was like, wait, it's Star Wars Day. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
had an extra Star Wars shirt and I just
Yeah.
wore it with, with the blazer because it was cold in a place. And she's cracking up. I'm like, I have my fleece Star Wars blanket I travel with. I got Star Wars pajamas. She's
Love
like, oh
it.
my God, I got to take a picture, send to my kids. This is going to crack them up. I'm like, take the picture.
Do it. We'll talk about Star Wars. We have The Mandalorian, the TV show that just started on Disney
Yes, yes.
Plus.
Hopefully I'll get a chance to check it out. Because my
Yes.
schedule, I haven't been able to watch too many of the series just because of once I got
No,
into like
only one
work mode,
episode
I
came
couldn't
out
watch
so
much.
far. There's only one
Right.
episode
But
out.
like, no, even for me, like I haven't even seen all of the Clone Wars, the
Oh, the
cartoon.
Clone Wars. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even get to watch all of those. My schedule, like, no. I
Well,
usually watch
when you're
them
sitting on the
after it's on.
beach, when you're
Yeah.
sitting out on the beach, like catch up on
Yeah.
the Clone Wars.
Then I'll catch up on stuff. I'll download everything then and be like, okay. But honestly, even when I would be sitting at the beach, I would
Probably be
sometimes I
strategizing.
would work. I would try to work, but then like you're just looking at the ocean. It's just too peaceful.
It is too peaceful. That's right.
But it
Yeah.
would give me a lot of great thoughts and some strategies. And
Mhm.
where one of my favorite beaches, I like the island Curacao, and one of
Mhm.
their beaches has wild boars on it. So like there's
Mhm.
always just like sitting around and they're funny. Like I watched one steal somebody's sandwich out their bag and it came and sat right behind me and was just eating it. And I was cracking up. I'm like, the pig is living its best life, you know? So,
That's so
but
awesome.
it's like, just sitting there, like I get a lot of thoughts and a lot of
Mhm.
inspiration, just kind of being tranquil.
You
But
know,
yeah,
yeah, I think one of my most tranquil times is when I was commuting, and that's how I started the podcast. I was like, you know what? I'm spending 2 hours driving. I could be doing something. So thanks to Crush It, and he's like, just document your story. It doesn't have to be so hard. And
right.
with Anchor app, they made it so easy to record a podcast right on your phone. It's like I'm just going to do that. So my first episode, the Queen Bee, is all around. It was all recorded on my iPhone while I'm driving home. And let's
Nice.
talk about Beyonce. Because somebody told me Queen Bee is Beyonce, and somebody else told me that no, that's somebody like there's another Queen Bee before Beyonce, and I can't remember who that was.
Little Kim.
Yes, Lil Kim.
Yeah, but Little Kim was Queen Bee, as in the B word, whereas Queen Bey for
Oh,
Beyonce for her name. Yeah,
oh, more clarity.
yeah, that was the difference in that one. Yeah.
Nice,
Little
nice,
Kim,
nice.
she was hardcore.
Mm, got
Yeah,
it, got it.
that's what that came from. But yeah, now you see Queen Bee, or it's more like Queen Bey for
Yeah,
Beyonce, but
yeah.
it's Queen Bee either or. Or it's just
Mhm.
a letter B for her name.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I was listening to I have like a playlist of different music, inspirational music. Sometimes I'm on my girl power. It just depends on
Yeah,
my mood.
yeah.
And I had Formation had popped up. I was like laughing when you said Beyonce. I was like, nah, I just heard her song.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Whew. If I got to play a character in a movie. All right, can I answer with two movies?
Of
I want to
course.
do one action and one non-action. So for an
Sure.
action movie, um, probably Black Panther.
Hmm.
And for a drama, The Color Purple.
Mm.
I love that book. I mean, it's funny. I was at a sleepover in junior high
Hmm.
and I couldn't sleep. I had like woke up and went to the bathroom or went to get something to drink or whatever. And my friend's mom had that book on the bookshelf.
Hmm.
And I never went to sleep that night. I just read the book because I had only seen the movie. So then I read the book and I loved it. So then I had to go buy my own copy. I've seen the movie God knows how many times, and I've seen the play.
Nice.
So yeah.
Color Purple. I'll have to check that one out because I haven't seen that.
It's an old movie. Whoopi Goldberg starred in it. It's like from the
Okay.
80s. It's from the 80s, but
Okay.
that was a good one. Or The Outsiders. That was one of my favorite books when I was like in my probably like 12, 13. Was
Okay.
The Outsiders.
Very
Pony
cool.
Boy and them. Just loved it.
Very cool. So that's 3 things for me to research on. Who is your favorite superhero?
Superman and Wonder Woman.
Nice. Love
It's
those
both.
guys.
And some days I feel like I'm Super Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Super
Yeah.
Wonder
Some
Woman.
days I do my Wonder Woman twirl, and I'm like old school Wonder Woman, Linda Carter's Wonder
Yeah,
Woman.
yeah,
I do my Wonder Woman twirl, and then I go conquer the world.
yeah. Nice. All right, last one. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Risk,
Hmm.
because I'm all about taking risk.
Yeah, you gotta take the risks because that's how you figure out the different strategies. Oh, I took this
Right,
risk. It's not working. Let's
right,
do the next one.
right.
I like it. I've been getting a lot of monopolies. Um, so that's a good
Yeah, risk.
change.
Or maybe even chess. It's funny, as much strategy that I do, I don't actually play chess, but I'm very good at like being a few moves ahead.
Mm,
But
nice.
yeah, that would be
Uh,
the other one, definitely.
my friend, what's his name? It's just hopping on my. It was right on top of my head. I interviewed him. He's one of the LinkedIn guys also, but he used to stream on Twitch, and he used to play chess on there.
Mm.
So I'm like, that'd be pretty cool. Like play stream chess over there. All right, last question, or where can my audience find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under VJ Niles, V as in Victor, J as in John, Niles like the Nile River with an S.
Mm-hmm.
My website is www.thenilesgroup.com. And yeah, those are the 2 biggest places to find me. I mean, I'm not on Twitter as much as I used to be, but I'm at VJ Niles on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And Instagram is at the Niles Group.
Nice.
But I'm most active on LinkedIn. If you really want to find me, it is LinkedIn.
Perfect. I love it. Well, VJ, thank you so much for your time. This was a very envisioning conversation. I mean, we broke down a lot of barriers and figured out a lot of things that are going wrong in my head, and how to get to that next level. You got to strategize. You got to have a goal in mind. Break it down.
And if anybody needs me, I do a free 15 to 20-minute consultation to see if I'm even the right fit for you, whether it's for your career or if you're trying to see if you can be an entrepreneur or not, if you have a great idea.
Perfect. Well, I'll be including these links on the episode show notes so they can get in touch with you. And if you have an offer link, they can go to there and get their 15, 30-minute free training or consultation with you, and hope for the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.